Greetings, YouTube. Diamond in the rough here with one of those moments which, I'm of torn opinion on it right now. And I'm speaking about the Rachel, let me get my notes straight now because I got some stuff I need to get out of my head. Rachel Dolezal, the NAACP exec who perpetrated that she was African American when she is indeed white. And I wanted to address just some of the comment or content of this issue and try to put it in a historical context so we all can understand it. She was finally outed, confronted, and addressed her misrepresentation, wrote a statement about it, and by this time, as the time of this taping, she's probably done a couple of interviews about what she did, why she did it. You can check the major media for her comments on that. So I'm just going to speak to some of that from my little perch on the wire and using my experience and backdrop as the reason for my comments. And if some of my comments rub some folks the wrong way, again, you can find someone else to listen to who's going to give you a sweet little commentary on it and talk about and give her roses and chocolates for what she was trying to do. But again, that's for you to do. My job is just to report the craziness that I see. And I'll preface my comments, one, by being a longtime activist in my community in Northeast Ohio, 20-year backdrop with working on various issues in my community, both locally, nationally, and in some cases internationally, from police brutality to school suspension and expulsion issues to misappropriation, or rather malappropriation of city and state resources as it relates to communities out of power, most of which have been communities of color and poor communities. I also am going to preface my comments by the fact that I am a college professor, having spent 20 plus years in a college classroom dealing with students in Africana and Pan-African studies. And I will say, by the way, that a majority of my students in a lot of cases have been students not of the African American community. In a classroom of 30, say, I can tell you, I can count on one hand the African American students in my African Studies class. So I'm speaking from a position of understanding and working with students as well as an activist who has to deal with different communities, as I have in my past organized and worked on some of those issues. So my comments come from that place. I want to say that what Rachel has done is unique. I know in most cases it's the opposite effect, that is African Americans who are trying to pass as whites. Her case is different in that, in my experience, I remember reading Soul Sister and Black Like Me. Two stories of where in the first case, Soul Sister, a woman takes melanin pills, goes down south to get the experience of white, black African-American, day workers in the South. And Black Like Me, where a man had did the same thing, working as a day laborer in the South, get the understanding and experience. And the reason why I bring up both of these stories is that, and as it relates to my experience with my students and my activists, is that I have often confronted the same things with my students. In one case, I remember an activist, fellow activist came to me and said, well, I have an uncle who uses the nigger word all the time at the dinner table. And I don't know what to do. And I talked to him about what to do, which I'll summarize in my comments later. And in the other case, a student, white student, who had dreaded his hair, because white students, we know whites can dread their hair. It dreads differently, but it will dread. I asked him what he was going to do at the end of the summer, or at the beginning of the summer, because the term had just ended. I turned in final grades. And he said, well, I'm going to cut my hair and get a job. And I thought about it, and just as I confronted the activist, I said, now, wait a minute. You can cut your hair. You can come to me and cry about your uncle and his racist comments, but in the case of the activist, what do you do about it to challenge that uncle and to challenge his obvious discrimination, obvious chauvinisms, obvious issues of not being able to welcome other folks to the table of power by denigrating them? And as I told my white student who wanted to dread his hair, I said, now, black folk can't just change and take off their coat, and excuse my blue bra strap, but it's summertime and I just come from class. We can't just take off our coat and not be black, cut our hair and not be black. Why did you dread in the first place? What do you do as the nephew to the person who is speaking in malappropriate terms? Your job, and as I shared with my student, if you're going to be true to the struggle, be true to the struggle. Be honest to the struggle. If you're going to sit and challenge and talk about racism when you come to our office to grab a picket sign and go and picket, or attend an international convention and conference and speak about black issues and African issues and out of power issues, that's fine, because we need allies. But what do you do in both cases when the day is done and the sun is down? Because I'm willing to bet you that Miss Rachel was confronted by some situation where all she had to do was flip the white card and she was white again because no one was around to see it. Now, I don't know, because I don't live with her and I don't know what her backstory is other than what we've seen in the press in the last week. But I am saying it's convenient for those not in the community of the oppressed to have affinity, but then flip it when it's convenient, because you haven't shared it with your family. You haven't shared it with your family members. And as I shared with both the student and the activist, I said, you have more power speaking to your family about African issues and out of power issues than I ever could. I can't pick at your uncle's place of work, his place of worship. They'd have me tossed in jail. But as the nephew, as the family member, as the son of someone who may not have as open a mind as you, the onus, the power, the responsibility lies with you to change the situation. Not to just perpetrate it because it's cool, because we know the media has taken a hold of black power and black images and use them for their own benefit, to sell cars, to sell shoes. Anytime you hear a white girl in a commercial talking about she got swag, I got swag, yes I do, and she's selling Summer's Eve, that lets you know the power of the black social construct, the black intellectual, the black cultural dynamic that everybody want to be it. And there's all kind of examples around us of malappropriation of black culture around us. All I can start with is Vanilla Ice. You can fill in the blank with anybody else who you know who have fit that role. Act black, look black, talk black, but ain't black. So all I'm saying, I think, to those who want to perpetrate is what Stokely Carmichael or Kwame Ture, I remember, said in a gathering when he had done the UC Berkeley speech in California. And some white students came to him and asked him, well, what do we do as white students for the black cause? And he said, and I will say, what Rachel's job now is to do: go to your community and organize. Go to your places of worship and challenge. Go to your places of social affinity and congregation and association and hangoutness and challenge the racism and the isms where you see it. I'm not saying that the black struggle don't need allies. Yes, we do. But I will say to her and anyone else who has perpetrated a fraud, because that's basically what she's done, we want you in the car. The black struggle need allies, because guess what? When you raise the African American and non-white out of power issue, when you raise that boat, all ships sail. Everybody rises with it. And so your job then, sister, is to educate your community. And at the same time, we'll educate our community. You can ride in the car, but don't try to mess with the driver and tell the driver where to go and turn here and turn that. Sit in the back seat, count cars, look at the scenery, comment on how nice the weather is, whatever. Let the driver do what the driver gonna do. Let the black community, let the African community, let the progressive community lead their struggle. And you can be an ally by helping to recruit and transform the minds of your own people. And that's what Kwame told those activists, the ones that want to join the black struggle in the 60s, because often the problem is that when it get tough, and he said this in many speeches after Berkeley, that when the going get tough, and he used the riots as the example, It wasn't nothing but us out there chucking rocks and fighting the police. Wasn't a white student to be found. Wasn't a white activist to be found. There were some Students for Democratic Society, some of the yippies and folks back in the day who were close to some of those issues. But the point is, let the black struggle lead the black struggle, and it has to be directed by black folk. It has to be directed by Africans. It can't be directed by white folks trying to pretend that they black. So my comment, in closing, is that the burden of proof is on Rachel to do what she got to do. And in fact, it's so obvious that it was a perpetration because her parents didn't even know about it until the media started knocking on their door about a week ago. We didn't know she was pretending to be black. We ain't talked to her in years. So that lets me know she ain't done her homework, her housework with her own family. So that's where your homework and where your beginnings start, my sister. Her comments she mentioned and she wrote as she left the Spokane NAACP are wonderful. But I will challenge her to walk in the footsteps of the Grimke sisters, Sarah and Angelina Grimke, Germans who fought for black freedom, for African freedom, were abolitionists even on their own dad's plantation. William Lloyd Garrison, John Brown, who we know picked up guns for black freedom, and that's when it got scary. And that's when it will get scary, when whites start picking up the cause for those who are oppressed and out of power. That's when we know it's on and popping. So, again, you have plenty of sheroes and heroes in your stay that have supported the black struggle, the African struggle, the out-oppressed struggle, the Native American struggle and issue. Follow them. Don't perpetrate, don't pretend. Set your own pace and your own standard and build your own manifestation in the places and the ways that you can have truly your manifestation rather than ride on the back of black folk. And as I told my student, you're going to have to dread to show you down for the cause. Just do the work. And as I told the activist about his crazy family members talking inappropriate at the table, your power is best used talking to them across the dinner table because you the nephew. He'll listen to you because you his favorite nephew. You're the one. So, I just hope that, it goes in the right way. And I will say in closing, in terms of these issues about race and black and, different aspects of black and one drop of black blood makes you black and all of that historical backdrop analysis that has been going on, there is but one race, the human race. I am A negative blood type. If I can save anybody's life out there, regardless of your nationality or the kink in your hair, I can save it if I know I can do it. So this whole idea of races that the press keeps talking about is very much incorrect and very inappropriately placed. So with that, let's comment down below, rate, comment, and subscribe. If you don't like my video, you can snap it off. I've been hated before. I'll live through it. I'll be okay. So this is Diamond in the Rough signing off. And again, if there's something else that causes me to rise up,